Hey guys, it's Steve here. Today we're going to be using visual effects to help save our oceans. This video is brought to you by Reality Capture, the state-of-the-art photogrammetry software. For a limited time, get 3,500 free PPI credits using the discount code CGGeek100 with the link in the description below. How are we doing this? Well, MrBeast reached out on Twitter and said that, hey, do you want to be part of our next big initiative to clean the oceans with Team skillz? And I was like, let's do it, baby! Woo! Every dollar donated is a pound of trash removed from the oceans or the shorelines. So head to Team skillz if you want to be part of this awesome cause. Even if you can only donate like 20 bucks or something, together we are strong, we can do it. So now it's time to put the visual effects to the work. So in conclusion, I'm going to try and make the most satisfying animation in the world to save our oceans. And so we gotta get started. Okay, so back in the studio now, it's time to get this ocean animation visual effects stuff underway, and I thought for the concept of this video, we'll go for a satisfying looping ocean cleaning animation. So as always, doing a little bit of reference to what makes something nice and satisfying to our brains. So a few things I came up with that I'm going to want to incorporate in this animation we're making, starting with a clean wipe, where something goes from dirty to clean. This is probably one of the most satisfying things. Then the next thing is just a little bit of a twist, where it goes from being something that you didn't really expect to something that was satisfying. So for this animation, I wanted it to be really pleasant and satisfying to watch, unlike, well, maybe some of my past animations. Of course, I'm using Blender, and I wanted to incorporate a lot of physics into this simulation as well. Obviously, water physics is going to be a must, and I wanted to play around with some fluid simulations, but then also just general physics simulations, fabric simulations, all of the simulations thrown into one animation would be pretty cool. So I started off doing some testing just to see if this whole thing was even going to work, calculating a handful of tests using MantaFlow, Blender's fluid simulator. And early testing wasn't looking so satisfying, but I upped the resolution a bit, used Blender particle system, adding things like splash particles, foam particles, and last but not least, and ran some more tests. These were basically the best thing I ever seen in my life. Freaking awesome! Now, obviously, there's still plenty of issues with this simulation, but I didn't have time to run any more tests, and we needed to just start getting into production. So now I needed some trash models, and by trash, I don't mean like the horrible sculpts that I've done in the past. Shut up, stop, that's not nice. I needed like actual trash like models that I could be using to clean out of my water simulation. So I turned to photo scanning, and that's why I was really happy that Reality Capture wanted to sponsor this video, because it was time to grab the camera and actually start hunting for garbage that I could photo scan into 3D models in the woods where people had dumped trash over the years. Now, a few tips for photo scanning. An overcast day works perfect, like I had here, because we want mostly flat lighting with no shadows on our models. Then you're going to want to set your camera settings to manual, because you don't want your white balance or exposure changing between your photos as you're capturing your models. Also, a locked off focal length of something around 35mm works great for capturing smaller objects. In case you're wondering, yes, your phone can work great for photo scanning as well, but of course you also want to use manual mode on your phone if you can. So after scavenging through some garbage piles, I definitely came away with some treasures. Some more treasures than others. I wanted to find a variety of like trash cans, plastic. With the garbage gathered, it's time to start photo scanning some of these models, starting with this old zombified milk container from probably about 20-30 years ago. I go about taking between 40 and 60 photos from every different angle for our software to process. And then of course, all this garbage that I was pulling out of the woods was properly disposed of after being photo scanned into the computer. So then I was really curious to see how Reality Capture would handle all of this data, and holy cow, it just knocked it out of the park. Literally, Reality Capture can be as simple as just a few clicks, and it will process all of your images into some of the most detailed photo scans I've ever seen. Getting such sharp edges on some of the corners and cut metal pieces of these cans, that's something that a lot of photogrammetry software really struggles with, but Reality Capture literally did just punch it in the face. And for some of the models, I did a little bit more of an advanced workflow to actually capture every different angle of it. So you know when you photo scan something on a flat surface, you're not going to actually be able to photo scan the bottom of it because you can't take pictures of the bottom of it. But what you can do with Reality Capture is you can actually create masks. So what I did is I actually took photos of the object sitting one way and then sitting another way from every different angle. And using masks in Reality Capture, I was able to photo scan a few of these models as a complete 3D object with every single side and angle looking really fantastic. I won't go into detail about how to do this because there's some great tutorials on Reality Capture's YouTube page for doing exactly this. So after a few hours of processing like maybe 10 different photo scans of random garbage, trash, shoes, cans, containers, I was ready with my model to take them into Blender and start animating and adding physics to them. So good job, Reality Capture. You can see why I was thrilled that they wanted to sponsor this video because their software is pretty amazing. And like I said at the beginning of the video, you can get 3,500 PPI credits for processing your own photo scans for a limited time, just a week only, using the coupon code CGGeek100 with a link in the description, so jump on that. So with the ball rolling now, we're into Blender with all of our photo scans, and the first thing I want to do is I want to animate by hand this trash kind of coming into my clean water simulation and polluting the water, making it look all gross and dirty. Next step is now a net that was going to come cleanly through the water, removing all of the trash in one fluid motion. Get it? Fluid motion. That was a good one. Cleaning the water and pulling all the trash out of it. A few things here. This I wanted really good physics for. So what I had to do is I had a keyframe on and off the physics for all of these assets. So when my net object was right about to collide with them, it would switch from keyframe animation to physics animation. The next step was I wanted the net to have cloth physics, but cloth physics don't interact with physics. No, it's confusing, but just trust me. So what I had to do is I had to bake all the physics to keyframes, and then added cloth physics to the net, so it now interacted with those keyframe physics. Sorry, you still with me? Also, again, for this water material, it's actually quite simple. It's basically just a glass shader combined with the principled volumetric shader to add that depth to the water to make it look kind of cloudy. Then what I did was a good amount of animating throughout the timeline on this water material so that when my trash moved in, the color of the water got polluted and looked more of like a rusty dark brown color. I also animated the volume shader to give it more of a dense material as the water got polluted and it was hard to see through the water. And then of course animated it back to normal as the trash was removed later on in the timeline. So now you're probably wondering what's gonna happen. Good question. I was wondering the same thing. I had the trash out of the water, but now I wanted to kind of recycle it and process it in a cool way. We came up with something that I thought was actually pretty good, but I don't want to spoil it for you guys just yet. So I'm going to keep that little bit of a secret. Sorry, can't hear about it. But for the rest of the scene, I wanted to fill it out with a little bit more of an ocean look to make it look nice and pretty. And as luck would have it, one of my Patreon friends, Thomas, reached out and said, hey, I have this underwater coral and creatures asset collection pack on the Blender market, and throughout the month of November, I'd like to be part of Team C's as well, so I'll be donating half of all of my revenue from this pack to Team C's. So thank you, Thomas, for coming in clutch with this awesome pack and also contributing to Team C's. I went about using some of these assets in the ocean floor of my scene, kind of filling it out with some of those little oceany plant-like things. I'm not going to even pretend to know what they're called, just corals and antlers and whatnot. But they all looked freaking amazing and were really easy to animate and use from this pack. So if you guys are interested in any underwater assets like these, and you also want to support Team C's at the same time throughout the month of November, you can pick up the pack with the link in the description. So scene was ready. The last steps were to bake this massive simulation. Even at just 250 divisions for my fluid simulation, this was taking over an entire day inside of Blender's MantaFlow. Part of the reason was I have so many objects with the trash interacting with the fluid simulation, it really bogs it down, and it actually gave it some instability issues, so I had it crash overnight like 2 or 3 times, which was definitely slowing down production a little bit. But finally, one day I woke up to an amazing smell in the studio and I knew the bake was successful. It didn't really happen quite like that, but it did work once. But with that done now, I was finally able to start rendering that final animation using the NVIDIA RTX 3090 back there in optics rendering. And the last step was audio. Now that might not sound So that might not sound the most interesting, but it was actually one of the most important steps, because as a lot of people like to say, audio is half of what you see. So as of late, I've been getting all of my sound effects and music for videos like this from epidemicsound.com. This website has a huge library of both high quality sound effects and music that I can choose from. And if you guys are interested, I actually have a referral link in the description where you can get 30 days free. So then it was just a matter of going through and adding sounds to every different stage of our satisfying animation. At last, the time has come to finally reveal our Team C's satisfying ocean cleaning animation. So without further ado, let's roll the clip. Do you see what I did there with the little twist of like processing the garbage and then sending it off to the landfill. Thought that was kind of cool. Actually, my little brother came up with the idea, but thought it was still kind of a cool way to process the trash. That wraps up this fun project. If you had any questions or thoughts, please leave them in a comment below. I love reading through what you guys have to say. If you like the video, punch that like button in the face, and I'll see you all in the next video where I'm definitely going to be doing something involving something. See ya.